So welcome everyone to the final project showcase for September. We are highlighting some of our recent graduates who will be presenting their final projects. So for the students or prospective students here, this is what you're going to be working towards, and for any potential employers or employee partners here, these are the people you want to look out for. So welcome everyone. So excited to have you here. We are going to start with our one of our recent software engineer graduates. Please welcome Victor Zarour. Say that okay?
All right. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'll be quick. Hi, I'm Victor. I just graduated a couple of weeks ago from the software engineering program, and I want to show you the app that I created. Can you enable screen sharing, please? So this app, oh, you're muted.
Sorry, working on that right now. Give me one.
Yeah, no worries. So I'll tell you about the app. It's called Agora, and I created this app. It's a course management app that allows professors to
You should be set now, Victor. Sorry.
Awesome, thank you. It allows professors to share materials with their students, create courses, post announcements. I myself am a professor, and so I try to create an app that would, over the years, I've struggled to have a kind of one-stop shop where I could create my syllabi, share them with my students, where I could have my students submit assignments. And so I created this app that does all of that for me. I've already created a professor account, and I'll show you what it looks like when you create an account. And I've populated a course already. But if you were to add a course, you can simply add the information here below. You'll notice the university, the course title, department, and the app will generate this 5-digit code that students will then need to enroll in the course. But I've already created a course, and if you click on the course here, you'll notice there's a pop-up, there's a nav bar here at the top that you can use for easier navigation, and you have all these different sections. Everything from your syllabus, so the professor can post the syllabus here. I should say professors have full CRUD capability over all of these different aspects of the application, where students typically can only see the material unless they have to submit, or they can post certain blog posts, for example. So this is the syllabus for the class. I can edit it here. It's very easy to edit. I have a rich text editor. This here was really interesting, the syllabus entry, and this is a different model on the back end. By the way, I used React for the front end, and I used Ruby on Rails for the back end. And every time you want to assign, say, a reading for a specific day, all you have to do is select the date and then type the reading here, say Hamlet, and then that's it. It'll do it for you. Let's say December 28th, and it'll add it here. You can delete it or you can edit it. So that's it for the syllabus. You can go to announcements then. And every time a professor sends out an announcement to the class, all the students who are enrolled in the class will receive an email. And I used Action Mailer for this. So you can edit the announcements as well. You can delete them. Next up, we have assignments. Oh, I skipped that, assignments. So this is the assignment section. A professor can post an assignment here. In this case, these are actually taken from a class that I am currently teaching. So these are prompts that I have my students select from to write their essay. And here below, if you're a professor, what you're going to see is all of the submissions from your students. So I have 10 submissions here. If I want to look at them, if I want to download them, all I have to do is click on the name of the file. And as you can see, it'll prompt me to download the file. Next up, we have a discussion board. So you can professors can create any kind of blog post or discussion boards that they like, and then students can respond to those. In this case, for example, I have this policy on plagiarism that I usually have students review. And in order to say that they agree with the policy, all they have to do is sign their name here as a comment. So you see all these students here have commented, and they have posted they agree with the policy. And I have no control. I cannot edit or delete their responses. Only they have control over those. Next up, we have the course documents. So all of the documents that you need for the class, you can post here and students can simply click on them to download them. So any kind of file that a professor wants to upload will be available here. All you have to do is choose a file. And lastly, we have students. So this is a list of students who are currently enrolled in the course. I can click on each one of them and see what essays or what assignments they have submitted. So you have the assignment column, the name, the title of the submission file, and the grade that I've given them. But if I want to change a grade, I can simply delete it and post it. Every time I post a grade, a student will get an email saying that one of their assignments has been graded. So let me show you really quickly what it looks like for a student, and I'm going to copy the code here. This is a landing page, but I'm going to log in as a student here. And I'm going to add the course. Here's the code for the course. And now I'm part of Great Works of Literature as a student named Javier. And really quickly, if I were to want to submit assignment number 1, the first essay, I could choose a file and I can submit it pretty easily. And the app won't allow you to submit more than once. You can only submit once. You can revisit the file here. And if you go to your grades section, you'll notice that you've submitted, but your professor hasn't given you a grade yet. So just to finish, I will show you what it's like. The student is here now, Javier. And if I give them a grade, let's say I give them an A because it's a great essay. And I just got an email from Agora saying that my professor for English 2850 has graded my assignment, and then that's the title of the assignment. And that's pretty much it. You can change your email, you can change your password, or you can delete your profile. That's my app. I'll leave it up, and this is my contact information. And yeah, I think that should be it.
Awesome, Victor. It was so good.
Thank you.
Loved it. As a former teacher, super important to have something like that. Loved it so much. Yes, everyone here, please make sure to take a screenshot of Victor's of his contact information, so that you can reach out at any point. Make sure that you're putting any questions that you have about his app, about his process, anything like that. You can put them in the question and answer box. If you think of one in the next couple of seconds, go ahead. I'll make sure to field it. If not, we can go back to him at the end and field any questions if you haven't had a chance to put them in. I have a question, Victor. What was like your what was the most challenging part about creating this app?
I would say getting Action Mailer to work. I struggled with that a little bit so that students could get notifications when they receive a grade, etc. Now that I've done it, it feels like I have a better a better understanding of it, but it was challenging at first. And also making sure I just sort of trying to figure out how to get certain information from the back end in certain components. That was the most challenging, but also the most fun, right? How do I access this particular student's grades from this component, for example? So I would say those two things were the most challenging. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. And again, if anyone has any questions at any point, feel free. We can always come back to Victor. But thank you. Super appreciate it, and great job. Oh, we do have one. Victor, is this app an integration for other systems or a standalone product? It's minimalist and beautiful.
Thank you. It is minimalist as it is now. I learned Tailwind for this. I've been using Bootstrap before, but I learned Tailwind for this, and I wanted to keep the design simple. I wanted to focus on the functionality. As it is now, it is a standalone, but I am actively taking notes. I am teaching the semester, so I'm actively taking notes about all the other things that I can incorporate into the app. But yes, as it is now, it's a standalone.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, we are going to hopefully move on. We're having, again, some technical difficulties, but Kevin Neilson is another one of our software engineer graduates. Kevin, are we figuring it out?
It's still not working. I'm not sure why. Like, I could log out of this computer and just sign in my other one. That's an
Okay.
option. Should I just do that?
Yeah, we'll move on
Okay.
to Juliet. Are you okay with going next? And then we'll
Okay.
come back to you. Okay.
Feedback.
All right. Okay, so pinch hitting now, coming in second instead of third. Please welcome one of our data science graduates, Juliet Day. Thank you, Juliet.
Hi, everyone. Just gonna share my screen. Okay, can you all see my screen? Okay, great. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Juliet Day, and I'm a data scientist. And today I'm going to be presenting my open table reservation forecast. So a little bit about me. Before attending the Flatiron School, I attended a culinary and business management program at the Institute of Culinary Education. And I started a baking business selling scones online and locally to farm stands and small grocers. So I saw through running my business and living in New York City how COVID affected the food industry. So I chose to use Open Tables data to analyze COVID's impact on restaurants across the United States. So on the first day of my culinary and business management program in March of 2020, my teacher told us that he estimated 50% of restaurants in New York City would not reopen after COVID. 50%. This is because everyone quarantined in their homes and the economy ground to a halt. One of the industries hit hardest by COVID was the food and restaurant industry. And this is because restaurants operate on very small margins and they rely on a steady stream of customers. So with a lockdown of at least several months, it was crushing for restaurants and it caused many restaurants to permanently close. I'm sure many of you have noticed that over the last few years, COVID has become a political issue. So Democratic-led cities have had far more COVID restrictions in place than Republican-led cities, which resulted in very different outcomes, both in terms of health and the economy. The goal of my project was to provide an analysis that could be used by the National Restaurant Association to determine how to allocate resources and what resources would be most beneficial to the restaurants that they serve. For anyone who doesn't know, Open Table is an online restaurant reservation platform. And in March of 2020, they launched a state of the industry project, which illustrated how COVID has impacted restaurants around the world. The data is reported as a percent change with 2019 as the baseline. So the data is comparing the same day of the same week for each year. And because it's assumed that certain days of the week will be busier than others, they did do it on a week-by-week basis. So for example, if a restaurant had 100 reservations on Tuesday of week 11 in 2019 and 40 reservations on the same Tuesday of week 11 in 2021, then a negative 60% would be listed. So I took a political approach to analyze restaurant reservations during and since COVID. I chose 3 Republican cities, Miami, Florida, Dallas, Texas, and Phoenix, Arizona, and 3 Democratic cities, New Orleans, Louisiana, Los Angeles, California, and New York City. So as I mentioned, COVID restrictions in different places affected not only how the state did health-wise, but also economically. Politico created state-by-state COVID scorecards with various metrics. So this graph is showing the economic versus health scores for each of the 6 states that I analyzed cities from, with the entire United States as a comparison. So the black line is dividing the Republican states from the Democratic states, and then the entire United States is on the far left. And as you can see, the 3 Republican states in the middle there have far higher economic scores than health scores, while New York and California had far better health scores than economy scores. Louisiana is a Republican-led state. However, I analyzed New Orleans, which is a Democratic city. And so unfortunately, Politico only evaluated on a statewide basis. So this is where my data becomes very clear. This is showing the average percent change in reservations from February of 2020 to July of 2022, being compared to 2019. So as you can see, the Democratic cities had an average decrease in reservations of 45 to 65%, whereas Republican cities only had an average decrease of 7 to 28%, which is still tremendous, but this is showing a pretty wide gap between the Democratic cities and the Republican cities. And you can see that politics is clearly playing a big role in the reservation outcomes. So I used time series to model this data using Sarima and Arima models in order to forecast the future 3 months. My mean absolute values had for each model final values between 5 and 13%. However, all my models predictions came very close to the 2019 baseline. And I'm predicting this is because I only had about 2.5 years of data, which is not really enough to create a very accurate model. So all of the predictions are going to be fairly close to the baseline. So I want to bring you back to the average percent change in reservations graph. The restaurants are down up to 65% on average, but democratic cities are down a much greater percent. Although the National Restaurant Association is not making COVID policy. So I want to focus on what they can control, which is where to allocate resources and what resources would be most beneficial. So namely, democratic cities are going to need more help bouncing back, and some of the resources could be financial, marketing, consumer trends, tracking inventory, and the cost of goods. So a few of the challenges that I had, the biggest was definitely the lack of data. COVID, although it seems like it's been going on forever to all of us, I only had about 2.5 years of data. So I tried to do more exploration with the data that I had. I compared the health versus the economy scores, but this really wasn't enough data to create a very accurate model. The second challenge was that outdoor dining played a big role in restaurant success during COVID because people did not want to eat inside. And so this data isn't taking into account the climate, and generally warm weather cities fared better because people were able to eat outside. My solution was to use all warm weather cities other than New York City, because New York City did have heated outdoor dining. I hoped that evened the playing field. So some future steps would be to start after the March 2020 shutdown to see if that could improve my model predictions, and use some of the same restaurants or at least the same cuisines to see if that would be a more even comparison. And then lastly, having more data. So short of waiting for more time to pass, we could use data from before 2019 or combine several Democratic cities and several Republican cities to group those to create a model. Thank you so much for your time, and please put any questions you have in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Juliet. This was amazing. Yes, please feel free to take a screen grab or write down all of Juliet's contact information. And so that you have it and you can reach out. This is really, really awesome. I loved hearing about this. I think it's super fascinating to see it laid out like this. Again, if anyone has any questions, please put it in the question and answer box. I'm curious how many years, this sounds grammatically incorrect, but how many years of data do you usually need, or like makes a good statistical analysis, or like gets it away from baseline?
So I don't think there's like a hard and fast rule. I think it partly depends on how many different cities you're comparing. There are probably a lot of factors, but generally I would say 10 is about what people look for. So 2.5 is certainly not enough, but I was hoping that if I adjusted the parameters and did different things, I could come up with a more accurate model. But the biggest outcome that I found from this project was just showing even just the percent decrease per city was huge. And so the models did predict slightly differently, but since they're all so close to that 2019 baseline, it's not going to show as big a difference. But yeah, I would say on average about 10 years is what you're looking for.
Wow, very, very interesting, but amazing job working with that challenge. I mean, this is really, really something.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much. Again, everyone, make sure that you take that screenshot, reach out. And thank you, Juliet.
Thank you.
Okay, last but not least, we have Kevin Neilson, who is one of our software engineer graduates, and who we've figured out a way to do this thing with.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me? Okay, fantastic. Yeah. Thank you everyone for being patient. Just a little technical difficulties. Let's get started. Am I sharing the right screen? Can you
I see
see the
you.
slideshow?
I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That is not what I want. Slideshow. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Kevin Neilson. I'm a full stack software engineer, just graduated from Flatiron earlier in August. I was a former club swimming coach, and I was a head coach for a nonprofit organization, and I have over 12 years of coaching experience. All right, let's jump into the application. So the name of my app is called tripleStamp, Transforming Real Estate Task Management. This is a landing page. We're just going to go over a couple slides. It's a full stack web application designed to organize and facilitate property task management for managers, landlords, and owners. Some of the front end technologies are React, Redux Toolkit, RTK Query, and Bootstrap from the CSS. On the back end, it's Ruby on Rails using active record associations, and for the database using Postgres, and using GitHub for version control. All right, so kind of the bread and butter of this application are the model relationships, and I think it was a lot of fun working through it. So there's 4 different models. You have a user, a property, unit, and inspection, all using full CRUD. And this shows that this property belongs to the user, unit to the property, inspection to the unit. Okay, let's look at the application. All right, so you can create an account. I'm not gonna demonstrate that. We're just gonna sign into my account. All right, we've got the dashboard. You have your profile page. Here we go. You can edit the account. You can delete the account. Not going to do that. Let's go back to the main page on the dashboard. And you have some of these shortcuts, which there's other places where you can do this, but you can add a unit to a property. You can add a property to your portfolio, and you can create a new inspection. Let's add a property though. Plaza. Add it. Let's add a unit to it. Potato, add units. Let's add another one. Second potato. And if some of you caught it, this will change in real time. You can delete this. And it updates on the front end and back end. And everything's rendering without a refresh, just using React Router v6, which is awesome. And let's delete this property. Let's get rid of it. And let's go to Paradise Village. Sounds like a fun place. Okay, here you have the list of your units with a unit number, the labels, which is optional. You can edit it, change the information. It updates right away. But let's add an inspection to barbecue place. All right, here it has a drop down. You have a selection of the different units belonging to that property. Let's add a new inspection. We're going to call it 2023 annual. I'm going to put it in all caps so it's easy to spot later on. Change the type, the status. That's going to be upcoming. And let's change the date. Wrong way. Here we go. January 1st. Add it. Okay, let's go to our inspections. Bam, it's right there. All right, let's say we made a mistake. We actually completed it. Let's change this to 2022. Change the date. Keep going the wrong way with this little modal. Okay. Say we did August 1st and it was completed. Updated. Not there anymore. Let's go to completed. And voila. We have 2. Not sure why 2 are there, but let's delete 1. And yeah, going back to the relationships is, since it's all connected, in Ruby, you have just this little attribute called dependent destroy. So we delete this unit here, barbecue place. It's going to delete all the associated inspections along with it. So let's delete it. and they're gone. No more barbecue place. We can look at all the inspections. These are just sorted by the status right now. All the barbecue place is gone. So the cool thing about that is, one, the relationships, but using RTK query to fetch the data and cache it. Can you guys see the VS Code?
Yeah.
Okay. So typically in like a standard fetch request, JavaScript fetch request, you'd probably have it in your form, or you would have your fetch request in your app. Like that's a common convention. But with RTK query, you create this this folder. It's just standard convention. You create this API slice. So I call this my property API slice. And these are all the fetch requests for the properties, the inspections, the units, and I think that's it on the properties. And so here's a fetch request. This is based on the user ID. So anything that belongs to the user. This is fetch request for a specific property. You can find the units based on the property ID. And there's just all full CRUD is right here. Create, update, the read, and the destroy. So that was pretty cool and fun to work with. It was really hard, but definitely rewarding learning that. All right. So let's go back to the slideshow. And yeah, going over some of the biggest challenges was just learning these new technologies, and pretty much in 2 weeks, you have to learn it all. Redux Toolkit, RTK query. It felt like I was learning a new language, but really rewarding. And Formic it's a controlled form library, and then having learned Bootstrap, I learned different technologies, but this was the first time dealing with Bootstrap. So yeah, thank you for joining, and here's my contact information. Does anyone have any questions?
Awesome, Kevin, thank you so much. Yes, please make sure to write down Kevin's information, or again, take a screenshot of this so that you have it and you can reach out. This was amazing. I have a clarifying question, and again, if anyone has any questions for anyone now, please feel free to put it in the question and answer box. I'll make sure to field it to our participants. But my question is just a little bit of clarification. When you were going through some of the challenges and the things, when you were saying it took you however long to learn like Bootstrap and to learn the API query, was it? How were you teaching yourself that, or was that part of the curriculum?
So those new technologies were self-taught. Self-taught, yeah.
What I thought. Just wanted to
Yes.
be sure I drove that point home. And then how long did all those relationships take you?
The model relationships. Let's see. So we had a few days to plan out our project where we weren't supposed to code at all, and so it probably took a couple days and a lot of refinement. You know, I'm a firm believer, like with writing papers, like just get all the information out, try to get that laid out, and then just clean up and fine tune. And so I think in the beginning, I probably overcomplicated it and just decided to simplify things and to make it easier to plan out and organize. And you know, some of the best applications out there are just, they're simple to use and simple concepts. So yes.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have a couple of questions in the chat, but Charis, I think is how you say the name, but is a former property accountant here. So
okay.
Funny enough, is this a standalone product, or do you envision this integrating with another property management platform? Same question that you had earlier, but all three of these projects are amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Charis, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. But yeah, right now it's a standalone project. I have looked at, so part of the inspiration is one, my father is in property management. He does that as well, but I also found a company called Happy Co, and they're like a property management application. They have an API that you can work with that I've kind of explored and dabbled with, but I'm not quite sure how I'd integrate it into the system. So that'd be something new to learn for sure.
Awesome. Okay, there's a lot of questions coming in about the recording. Yes, it will be on the Flatiron YouTube, and will also be uploaded to Base if you are a student. So those are the two places that you can get it. Also, I'm sure that each of these panelists will be posting it on their LinkedIn, so you can go to their LinkedIn because you will have written down their LinkedIn information and you could go there to see it. So there's a few places. Okay, Kevin, is your project on GitHub?
Yes, it is. I can share it like this. It's actually right here. No, it's the wrong link. GitHub.
Awesome.
Where should I answer that?
You could just write it in the chat.
Chat. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and then one more question. What is your total tech stack for this project? And did you build all of this from scratch?
So the technologies, so the language, we have React, Redux Toolkit, RTK Query, Bootstrap, just using VS Code, as you saw, and yeah, Ruby, Postgres, and GitHub. Does that answer your question?
I think that sounded good. Kevin, could you repost that, but just make sure that you toggle to that it's going to everyone and not just the host and panelists, because that's just us that can see it.
Yes.
Okay, while you do that, Juliet, I have a question for you. What did you find the most challenging in working with time scenarios?
Time series.
Oh yeah, sorry, time series.
So I'd say the most challenging was the parameters and optimizing the parameters to get the most accurate time series model I could. And there are various methods I found to help optimize the parameters, and sometimes I would get a reading that would basically equate to a non-time series model, which was the computer's way of saying you don't have enough data to make a time series model. And so that made it hard to obviously optimize the parameters, but I think creating a model where you have a lot of different metrics that are evaluating it and then changing the parameters to optimize the model and know which of those ways of evaluating it is the best was definitely the hardest part, because there are a lot of ways to change the parameters and a lot of ways to evaluate the model.
Awesome, thank you so much. Okay, well, if there are no more questions, that will be it for us this evening. Thank you so much to all of you panelists for all the hard work that you put into these projects. They were absolutely amazing, and for coming and giving some of your time to show them off. Everyone here, please feel free to reach out to them. There's some good networking here. And yes, thank you everyone for coming. It was a pleasure to have you here. And, if you are coming and watching, feel free to come next month when we have our next one. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Bye.